What are high impact instructional practices? So I was told last week that the next year, or actually, yes, next year we'll be focusing on high impact instructional practices. And we're going to have to learn new things to make sure that our classes are getting better and better. So that means, so I looked at it and said, okay, I don't know, that'll be exciting. Let's see what we can learn from that. Now, what's interesting, I was looking at a document from the Ontario government. It says high impact instructional practices in math. So that's a document that I had never seen before today. And I was looking into it, and this one is mostly focused on math. And my idea here is how can I take the information here and use it in science or other classes? Now, it's exciting. I do love pedagogy. I do love new ideas on how to make our classroom better. So I said, okay, let's see what I can learn from it. So if you look at high impact instructional practices, the purpose for that are the following. So if I look at the document here, it says it focuses on development of conceptual understanding. So there are topics and content we need to learn. We have procedural fluency. So we're looking at systems, we're looking at the procedures to follow, and then getting better and better at it. We have skill developments. Indeed, we have communication and problem solving skills, which I think works great for math, but also works great in science because our society is full of problems that we need to solve. It's also good in geography, in history. We learn from the past and we can see how the future will be better. Same thing when you're learning a language. If you're learning your first language or second or third language, the idea here of learning new skills, communicating, and when you need to have problem solving skills, because if you need to communicate something, you need to make sure that the person listening to what you want to share understands your message. So here, when you look at the document here, they look at a few things, and then I realized that it is a good way to look at pedagogy. But if you look here, it says high impact instructional practices. But for me, when I went to Teachers College, they called them pedagogy. Something I've realized is that the English speakers don't often talk about the word pedagogy. We hear it at the university level, but often research is done. And I do find that sometimes it doesn't get to the schools as fast as it could. Especially for me, I've been teaching for more than 25 years. And guess what? A lot of the new research never come to me. So either I learn from either my board during professional development or from my own interest. So the whole idea here, I think there's a need for more information coming from the researchers to the field, which is basically in schools. Now, I was looking at what would be those. So if I look here, so I said, what are those high impact practices? Well, if I look at the listed 8, I think, or 9, and let's see what it shows here. The first one here is students need to know the learning goals, success criteria, and descriptive feedback, which is something I've done for a long time. Every day we have an agenda on the board. We know what we have to do. I also share how do we know we are successful, either from exit passes or when we have a lab, sharing what we are supposed to find, even though I don't necessarily give the right answer. So that's something we already do. The idea here is that the wording may be different, but what I've realized is sometimes teachers do amazing things. And if, by the way, you have a favorite way of teaching, favorite pedagogy, please put them in the comments of the video. I always love to read what other teachers are doing, and I can use some of your ideas to even make my classes better. So if you look at the second point here, they say direct instruction. So on this one here, it's either a teacher is at the front of the class sharing information. We're not talking about hours and hours of lectures. It could be 2 minutes, could be a segment, could be a teacher to the group, but it could also be this idea of think, pair, share. It could be an idea of you group students together. Each groups have a document or a topic, and then they work on the topic, and then you reassign all the groups, and then you have experts. That's something I've been using already. The third idea here is problem-solving tasks and experiences. So here it works beautifully in science because here we can put a situation where we have hands-on activity. We say, here's the equipment, and I always give them a chance to do some playing time when it's safe, and then give them a chance to find an answer, and then they can ask their own questions to actually find new information, which is exciting. The third one they mentioned here is teaching about problem solving. So the whole idea here is that sometimes when they start doing problem solving, they may not know right away. So showing them the process is important. And on top of that, it's always good to have, so here in the document, they say to have multiple entry level to problem solving, because you have in a classroom, when it's heterogeneous, you have different students at different steps at their learning pace. The next one is about tool and representations. So the whole idea here is, can we do something with our hands-on activity, but how can we represent our learning? Could be pen and paper, I do understand that, but having chart paper, having whiteboards on around the classroom, blackboards, we can even have video context. We can even have them to do a presentation. I love to do activities and have students take pictures of what they do and then showing it to the class. This is my favorite thing when we are going outside and we talk about sustainable ecosystems. Here we have the next point here is about conversation. Too often, I find that students don't necessarily talk about the topic. So in my class, rarely students have, they work with their computer, with documents, type in their notes. People say, well, I'm doing it old school with paper and pen. However, I do find that when students are given a question and they don't have a computer in front of them, they have more of a chance to think about a problem or of the situation, talk about it with friends using new vocabulary they learn, and I think it's so much easier. So I think that is good. Conversations at different way of doing things. They call here in small group instruction, but if you think of grouping, conversation can happen when they are students at the same level or a variety of level within your classroom, just so that to show students about different perspective. The next one is about small group instructions. So here again, you can have homogeneous groups or heterogeneous groups, in which case you are showing specific learning. Learning can happen teacher to students, could be from a video, could be from an article, from a document, from a video. The whole idea here is that small groups learn different ways, learn the same thing different ways. So I think that's something important. The next one is deliberate practice. The whole idea here is to make sure that students have a chance to learn, but also practice what they learn so that they can reach mastery. The only way to reach mastery is to actually do what we need to do. These are things that if you've been teaching even for a few months, few years, or a few decades, that you have one way or the other had a chance to practice that in your classroom. And the last one they have here is flexible grouping, in which case sometimes when we put in, let's see, I forget what I wrote on this one. That conversation, deliberate, flexible grouping. So here, the idea here is that we have students that can, okay, what do I have here? Move their math thinking forward. Oh, the idea here is they have a chance, once they have learned new concept, to apply it themselves. Now, what's interesting, some people will get information, they just want to know it, and that's all they want to know. However, there's always a few people who want to go beyond. People may want to be more, talk about it, write about it. Other people want to experiment about new topics. The whole idea here is that once you have knowledge, when you have a new understanding of a topic, different people have different ways to apply what they know so they can reach the next level. Now, what's interesting with science is that sometimes when you have people that will do 1 or 2 courses in science and they know they won't continue, their perspective is quite different than a person in grade 9 or 10 that they know they're going to go in science or engineering or in health sciences. So it's always interesting to see the perspective of the students when they come into your classroom. Anyway, I think it's interesting. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to look at this idea of high impact. Let's see. I forget here again, high impact instructional practices. But I'm not going to just use this one. So this was a summary. And as I was surfing the net this afternoon, I found this one here, which is high impact instructions from Jim Knight. It's 300 pages. So I'm going to do some reading to see what I can learn and share with you. Because the best way to keep teaching exciting is to actually have a variety of tools and skills in your classroom, because it keeps the class interesting, keeps you trying new things. You tell students that you're trying new things. If it works, it's beautiful. And if it doesn't work, they're part of the learning as well. And that's the best way to have your teaching style evolve. On this, that will be the video today. It's a bit short, but it's always nice to chat with you. So in the weeks to come, we're going to talk about pedagogy. I think it is exciting. If you have any questions about pedagogy, put your questions or comment in the section below, and I'm always happy to read them, and I always answer them. On this, have a great evening, and I'll see you next week